What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. We got a very, very special episode today, talking some Secret Invasion. Joined as always. Joined. I didn't even tell you who I am yet. My name is TJ Zwarich, editor in chief of Agents of Fandom.com. Joined as always by my best buddy Garrett Blaney. How you doing?
I'm good. I guess I could say good. I've had a hell of a
Are
week.
you good?
I'm good. I just am ready to kind of unplug from the chaotic week I've had and tune into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I love and adore. So happy to have this time.
Yeah, don't want to make you relive any details or anything like that, but Garrett has had himself a pretty wild week in the real world, just dealing with stuff. So we're happy to hopefully be able to get him away from that for this one. Also joined as always by our main man Adam. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. Similar to Garrett, I've also had really for me just these last couple of days have just been absolutely crazy, and to the point where I realized like an hour ago, I'm like, wow, I remember nothing about this episode. I should probably rewatch it if that's going to be the episode that we're supposed to be talking about. So I'm feeling a little bit better now about it now. I kind of got everything fresh in my mind, but like Garrett, I'm excited to just kind of unplug from all that, not have to worry about it, and spend some time with my three good friends talking about a show that I'm mostly enjoying so far.
Mostly enjoying so far. Episode 3, it hasn't had quite the same reception as the first two episodes. I personally really enjoyed it. A couple things, storytelling wise, I maybe didn't agree with, but from a suspense standpoint, I had an absolute blast with this one. Time to introduce our very special guest. It is a long anticipated debut on the podcast, and finally it is here. Our fellow agent, the inspiration behind the Be More Like Brandon hashtag, one of the first people I got the pleasure of getting to know better in terms of internet friends, and truly one of the kindest people I've ever met in my entire life. Brandon Moore, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy. Thank you so much. I don't even know what to say after an intro like that.
And as good of an intro as that was, it still feels like it wasn't quite good enough. That's how good you
Right.
Can you tell that I thought through what I was gonna say for your intro, and then for Garrett's and Adam's, I didn't have my script up, and so I was like, my main man, the man, how's it going, Adam, man?" And I just like fumbled it so badly because I only thought through what I wanted to say for Brandon's intro before we started. Here we are, but hey. I wanted to make sure that you weren't possibly overshadowed because, yeah, we are excited to have you on the show. What have you thought of Secret Invasion so far?
You know what? I've really been loving it. Like the first two episodes in particular, I really love. Like I'm really big into grounded, suspenseful type stuff. Like that's really my jam. And so the first two episodes really hit the spot for me. And I can't wait to discuss episode 3 with you guys because I know that there's some differing opinions here.
Those of us watching on Twitch, we thank you so much for joining us live, hanging out in the chat. If you're watching us on YouTube after the fact, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, do all those great things. And then if you're listening to us in podcast form, same thing. Make sure you're subscribed. Leave a nice little 5-star review. My computer is shaking as Shadow is behind it, moving it around right now. And let's get into this episode. Spoiler warning: if you haven't seen episode 3 yet, hit us with a pause, come back, join us after. Let's get into the Agents of Analysis. Garrett, I want to throw it to you first. Episode 3 didn't quite do it for you as much, eh?
Yeah, unfortunately, I rewatched the episode today, like Adam, in preparation for this, and I found myself like pretty bored throughout it. I don't think it hit nearly as well as the first two episodes did. I think it was almost a little bit transparent, and I think that without Ben Mendelsohn, it is one of the worst episodes of Marvel TV. Ben Mendelsohn absolutely crushes this episode. Like, does phenomenally, holds this episode up on 4 tent poles by himself. That's really all I have to say right now.
Ben Mendelsohn absolutely crushed it. I'm a lot higher on it than you. Like, I just absolutely was on the edge of my seat throughout this one. Like, was so scared of what was going to happen. Maybe it was just because I was already very anxious that day, but the show like really brought that anxiety out even more, and like not even in the worst way, but like I felt worried for everything that was happening. Adam, what did you think of episode 3?
So when I first saw it, like the suspense and all that kind of the anxiety, the questioning, paranoia, all that stuff hit a little bit harder, and that's kind of to be expected. Like hit harder the first time than it did the second. I wasn't quite on that same level of boredom as Garrett on my watch earlier today, but until they got to that car scene with Fury and Talos, which is just like all time stuff like that, until they got to that point, it was slow, really really slow for me. I had a tough time really like focusing and locking myself into it, but this my problems with this episode, which we are most definitely going to get into later, come at the very end of it, within the last 5 minutes. I think once they get to that middle point and then up until the stuff that happens with Gaia, I really did enjoy it. Like all the stuff with the missile strike and everything at Bob Fairbanks' house, I really enjoyed all that. But once we get to the Gaia stuff, dead or not dead, whatever. I know I'm not going to go too much into it now because we are going to carve out plenty of time to talk about it later. But I take a lot of issue with that, so I'm excited to go into that more than anything.
Bob was a funny addition to the episode this week. A big character with so much emphasis on his name that I kind of thought was pretty funny. Brandon, give me your thoughts on episode 3, and then we'll kind of start diving into some of the specifics, because one thing this episode did was drop a lot of little Easter eggs.
You know, I liked this episode. I did not like it as much as episodes 1 and 2. I thought that it was a bit of a step down. Overall, like there were parts where I can see why Garrett was bored during certain parts of it. I also rewatched the episode a little earlier today, and yeah, it just there was something about it that didn't quite connect for me the way that I would like it to. There were moments that I really liked, but there was that ending, which we will talk about, and I know a lot of people have thoughts.
We better.
Yeah. Oh, we will. That'll be, I'm sure, one of the main lengthier discussions that we go through throughout this episode. But the first one I want to touch on is the MCU is kind of famous now for adapting comic book things and giving their own little twist on it, trying to do their best to be faithful to the most important parts of the source material and then make their own adjustments where they see fit. And Secret Invasion is kind of an example of that, with them obviously taking the name from the comic and it being about Skrulls, but then doing a totally different style, grounded story as opposed to it being the entirety of the MCU like the comics is. But we got to see another adaptation be realized in this one, with hints at it in previous episodes, but right out of the gate in this one, Gravik introduces the Super Skrulls to the Skrull Council, and we see it's not the same storyline as it's the Fantastic Four's DNA, and that's how it's weaved in. It's different MCU characters we've seen throughout the years. Cull Obsidian, Extremis, Groot, who we haven't gotten to see in action here yet, but we know is coming from the trailers. Garrett, what do you think about how they're adapting Super Skrulls onto the screen based on what we've seen so far?
I think it's really smart. Obviously, there's a lot of aspects that are not at play right now. So being able to pick and choose some things that slide into those slots pretty nicely, at the same time are really cool callbacks to things that we've seen in the past MCU. I love that decision. I think it's really fun to start off with that off the bat. However, the scene where we see Gravik kind of utilize this Extremis ability, looking back, I wish we kind of hadn't seen that in marketing. Probably even the Groot arm thing, because I feel like that scene would hit, or like the reveal of everybody standing up and posing as Gravik would have been like so much cooler had we not seen that. I wish we had chosen a different, marketing scene for the trailers and stuff, because that didn't hit for me. But yeah, the Extremis stuff, I think it's really cool. I'm excited to see how kind of the Frost Beast works in there. But yeah, good question, TJ. I think that's a cool change, and I'm glad that they adapted it that way.
We had Mark brought up a question in chat that I really liked as well, is like, where do we think Gravik got this extremis from. Was it Killian? Was it somebody else? Did it get sold to them? I would kind of assume they had somebody within AIM the entire time. That's kind of what I would guess with this one, is like they had the data. They weren't didn't put it on themselves, but they had the data because they were there within AIM, maybe even mixing and matching as different people to make sure they didn't get caught by Killian. But that would be kind of what I was thinking in there as well. And then MTF brought up, wasn't there another random extremist person in Shang-Chi? There was in Xialing's kind of battle royale group. There was somebody with extremists. So that stuff's been kind of cooking, moving around since Iron Man 3. Adam, what do you think about the Super Skrulls extremis, kind of how they showed it, all of it? Because the way they cut through his hand, that was pretty damn cool.
Oh yeah, it was. And Garrett brought up a really good point that like it was a pretty big mistake to show that in the marketing, because like I'm thinking back when I saw that trailer, like that was it was a cool scene to see, like the stretching. Obviously the stretching, people were freaking out about that because everybody immediately was like, holy shit, Super Skrulls. And like we realized immediately it was coming. But then like the scene where everybody turning into Gravik, it's like when I saw that in the trailer, I was like, okay, like they're just Skrulls. But like, and so we knew it was coming today, but I'm like, I didn't think anything really like cool of that during the trailer. And then if we had the chance to see that today, it would have been awesome. So it was like a double miss. Like not only it wasn't really that cool in the trailer because I just didn't really understand like the stakes of it and what it was going to mean like in that moment for that. Like he wasn't even going to have anybody. Like Talos had nobody, and then like truly, if Gravik wanted, he already had complete control of the situation. So it was just a lose-lose. But for the extremist stuff, the Super Skrulls, yeah, they're doing a great job of adapting that. I think it would have been far too confusing to try to do anything with the Fantastic Four. I mean, we've got all that stuff coming up, and I think there's a world in which they probably had a discussion about when they were talking about how they wanted to adapt Super Skrulls, and they're like, do we want to go this route and like find some way to tie it into the Fantastic Four? And somebody with some good reasoning in the room was like, no, we do not. That's farther out in our plans, and that's going to confuse the hell out of everybody, and that's just not going to be a good idea. So putting their own spin on it's cool. Yeah, I'm really excited with the Frost Beast stuff. I don't know if that means they're going to kind of be able to withstand extreme temperatures or what, because like they've got, it seems like with extremists they could withstand extreme heat, and then like the Frost Beast stuff they could withstand extreme cold. They've got the durability. They've got everything. They're really formidable, and I wrote about in my review how I have no idea how somebody like Nick Fury is, or even just like Talos being like a regular Skrull who are still like really, really strong, how they are going to stand any chance against not only just Gravik, but like an army of Super Skrulls. If we get to that point, I don't know. I'm worried for the humans at this point because those Super Skrulls they're going to be a problem.
Yeah, the Super Skrulls are going to be a problem, and I'm happy you brought up your review because Adam's been writing some excellent reviews for Secret Invasion week to week up on agentsofandom.com, so make sure you check that out. And we also have tons of exciting video content coming as well. One of our brand new agents, Charlie Goldberg, got to interview Kevin Chamberlain, and that's up on our YouTube page, as well as Damon, who's in chat, making a good point about that scene that I want to touch back on. Just tuned in with us, fresh off of his recording on the Comic Corner with his best friend Kelly Thompson. So make sure you check that out when it hits the Agents Fandom YouTube page. And he's got some great stuff over there with Chip Zdarsky, Jed McKay, and some awesome ones coming as well. So in terms of website content, video content, our entire amazing podcast network, make sure you check that out. Brandon, what do you think about the twists that the MCU has made to the Super Skrull?
So as someone who's not like super very familiar with the comics, I actually really like this. Like, I think that it's very smart. Obviously, the Fantastic Four have not been introduced yet, so it just makes sense that they would not use them. But for me, this scene actually hit a little different for me, just because, like, I didn't remember the extremists from the marketing. I did remember like seeing everybody like turn into Gravik.
The extremist wasn't in the marketing. Sorry.
Okay.
It was just
cool.
The reveal of the Skrulls.
Okay. Yeah. So to me, and Damon brought this up in the chat there, that it really did signify that anybody can beat anyone at any time. And I think that that's a really interesting and very scary idea, that any of these characters that we're looking at any given moment could be someone that we don't trust. And so for me, that scene was actually quite scary and kind of hit me a little harder than I think maybe it is some other people.
And I think it's something that, based on the end of the episode, that's what they want us to feel as well. And I do feel a sense of that. It's hard for me to not think about what I would have felt had I never seen any
Sure.
footage of that. I think it would have just hit a lot harder overall. But I agree with you, Brandon.
Yeah, I agree with all those takes. Would have hit harder had we not seen it, but it did a great job of giving us that sense of, wow, anybody could be anybody right now. And I want to bring us back to that actually for the end of this episode, because I do think that actually plays an important role, and it could have been a bit of narrative foreshadowing there. Another little Easter egg that we got was a quick mention in one of these flashbacks. I've listened on some podcasts of people covering the show and people feeling like the flashbacks have kind of made the show disjointed for them. Personally, I've enjoyed them a lot. I love it anytime we get kind of additional MCU context. And so the mention of Dreykov and kind of pulling it back to Black Widow, pulling it back to Hawkeye and all of their storylines, that was pretty cool of like, oh, so that's where Nick Fury got this intel. Brandon, what did you think about the Dreykov reference?
The moment he said Dreykov, or the moment she said Dreykov, actually, my ears perked up. I was like, kind of like a Scooby-Doo moment, like, oh,
Yeah.
But, I thought that, thinking back to Black Widow and how this is how he got the intel, and that it was the Skrulls behind this the entire time, and how they were able to get him this intel and so many other pieces of intel over the years. I think is really interesting, and I think that it helps to recontextualize these different pieces of the MCU that maybe we thought about one way, but now we look at them in a completely different way because the Skrulls were basically providing him with all of this information. So I thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting.
Garrett, you brought up Ben Mendelsohn's performance, and it truly was incredible. And the scene that really did it the most for me was them kind of doing with their classic married couple dynamic, which is funny because we learned, obviously, of course, Fury has a wife, and he's just terrible to his actual wife. But Talos is him and Talos are just kind of bickering like a married couple all the time, and Talos says to him, like, you're not shit without us, man. Like, you were a field agent and you became director because of us, because of this Dreykov stuff and everything else. How did that recontextualize Fury for you, knowing that, like, oh, it wasn't just a few assignments when things went really bad. Like, this is how he rose the ranks.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it, but the biggest thing that I took away from that was, like, his response pissed me off. It's just so, like, well, we're here now. Let's go. The nuclear guy. You forgot about the guy that's about to launch off the... Like, no, you're deflecting because every single thing that he said is just spot on, and you don't want to address it, and you hate feeling like you don't have the upper hand. That really frustrated me, seeing that. But yeah, that scene right there is that's when I realized, like, wow, this guy is carrying this episode, like, completely. I do want to say about the flashbacks, though, real quick. I agree with you, TJ. I love the flashbacks. I think they do an awesome job of contextualizing things. But if we're going to do flashbacks from this time zone, this time era, and we don't see Coulson, then what the fuck are we doing? That is such a miss. That's such an ouchie for us, you know?
Because you don't even have to throw it back to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff. It could
You
literally
don't.
just be something Captain Marvel related. Like,
Exactly.
oh, he was still alive here. He was just helping out on this one. And you know Clark Gregg would absolutely be down whenever his name is called. So, yeah, I'm with you there 100%. Adam, what did you think about this kind of different narrative that we've now been given to Nick Fury's rise through the ranks within S.H.I.E.L.D.?
It was really cool. Yeah, I'm with you guys on, like, enjoying the extra contextualization, because it's like we got a lot of this in phases 1 through 3, like, especially as we got further along, and it's like this breadcrumb trail of, like, little gifts for long-time viewers. Like, if you've been watching for a while, you understand that. But, like, I'm sure there's somebody on the planet that's never seen anything Marvel, like, with every single project that's figured. I watched Secret Invasion. I've seen some trailers for it. It looks pretty cool. And then that scene means nothing to them. Sure, maybe there's not that many people doing that, but like, that scene doesn't mean anything to those people. And then, like, for those of us that know, like, that have been following Nick Fury since we first saw him way back in phase 1, like, that really means something to us. And that's, like, I enjoy when they do things like that, because it's like, hey, Like, we appreciate you guys that have been with us for like 10 plus years. Like, this is for you. Like that, those kinds of things really, I really appreciate those. But as far for Nick Fury, man, like really fucking rough episode from the guy, huh? Like, I was like really pissed off at him. He was an asshole to his wife in the beginning. Like, and she was like trying to be polite. Like, she was like, look, I had no illusion about you being like, you're Nick Fury. I understand you're going to be gone. Then she was like, but then you left again and then didn't come back. And then you left again. Like, it was going, and then he still like deflected that onto her. And then the stuff in the car though was like unreal because he knew he didn't get up to the top without them. So to even bring that up, like, he had to know he was going to get cooked unless he thought he was just going to be able to hold it over his head and Talos was just going to be like a scolded dog, just look down and be like, oh, I don't care. But then after the fact, not only for him to just move on like he did, but for him to be like, are you done hurling abuse at me? I was like, are you? The fucking gall of this guy. That was unreal for me.
That was that was a triggering moment because it was one of those things that it's like, think of the amount of times you've talked to either an authority figure, a parent, a older adult in your life, and you're just trying to say like, this thing that happened, that was actually pretty traumatic for me. So maybe let's just let's not do that. That didn't feel great for me. Oh, so you're saying that I'm terrible and I've never done anything right ever? Nope. That's not
even close to what I'm saying.
Not quite what I was going for there, Fury. But that's Fury was pretty awful to his wife, but he's awful to Talos, awful to his wife. Somebody who is not awful to their partner, they're pretty great to their partner. It's this guy right here, because I noticed mine. Ava has a pretty phenomenal comment in the chat that I want to touch on. And Brandon, I want to throw this one to you. And they said it's interesting to think about the Skrulls and social commentary on refugees, people who are othered and people benefiting off the work of the marginalized groups. And it's kind of interesting to think about the Skrulls with that, how on the surface it seemed like, yeah, we'll find you a home. Just help us out with this in the meantime. But in reality, what it turned out to was, hey, homeless people, do all of our bidding for the next 3 decades.
Yeah, I mean, the social commentary in this show has been really interesting and really profound, and I feel like that's one of my favorite things about this show, outside of the the espionage thriller aspect of it. But I think that with, how do I say this? When you're doing commentary on refugees, and I think it's important that you sort of show what, and I'm completely losing my train of thought here, but I think it's important that you tell the story of people who have been marginalized, and you talk about the struggles that they've been through. And if you don't, I don't know. I'm sorry.
What's the point?
You're good.
What's the point if you don't tell the struggles and the issues of the marginalized people? Because then there's no way to relate, no way to.
Yeah, you're doing them a disservice if you don't tell that part of their story.
Exactly. Yeah.
100%.
And I think that if you're not doing that, but also if you're trying to, I don't know.
You're good. You're good.
No, you said what you wanted to say.
I completely just lost everything.
You tried to put more profoundness on an already profound statement.
You're good, buddy.
I had a point. I had a point.
Oh man,
lost it in the queues. Lost it in the cue cards.
I had a point, and then and then it just went somewhere else. But I'm really happy with what this show is trying to do and what it's trying to say about minority groups and what minority groups bring to the world and how minority groups tend to be treated after they've done everything that they've been asked to do. They've been asked to be model citizens, model people, and they do everything that they're supposed to do, and yet when it comes time for them to sort of be treated like equals or to get what they've been asking for, they don't get it. And a lot of times they're made out to be the bad guys. Even, it's sort of like, well, you should just be happy to be here. You should just be happy to be like, don't, forget
Be
about
thankful that we even let you be here in
yeah,
the first place.
yeah, exactly. Like it's not you're never going to have a seat at the table. Just be happy that we let you here, and that we let you be here. And that's sort of the vibe that I'm getting from this story that they're telling, and it's really interesting, and it's something that really resonated with me, and I think they're doing a really great job at that. I think that's one of the stronger aspects of the show so far.
You
I got
either
This is a
found-
really cool.
I was gonna
Taylor-
say you either found the
You
proper cue
brought it
card,
around.
or you just
Yeah.
absolutely just decided to nail it out
I
of the
just-
park.
No, you know what? I stopped trying to read my cards, and I just started riffing, and I got it.
There he is.
There it is. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely nailed it on that one.
Really
And
cooking, yeah.
Thank you.
Mark brought up a great point in chat that I was going to say something similar. Is what I thought it was very interesting how they did it again to us. The same thing they did with Captain Marvel. We thought Captain Marvel was going to be Skrulls bad, humans good, and that's the main storyline. And we saw, oh no, it was actually very gray, and it wasn't that cut and dry. We're seeing in this one, it was very marketed to be like Skrulls are the bad guys now. They're pissed and the bad guys now, and we learned the full context of the situation and kind of noticed that, oh, the narrative that we were taught off the bat isn't actually all there is here. And Mark said that it's a sudden shift, and they explain it away with, it's not just there have been evil Skrulls all along. Surprise! It's that they put their trust in a man, and he took in first Fury, who took advantage of them and didn't find them a home and just used them to all these things, and now Gravik, who is doing the exact same damn thing of taking advantage of them for his own gains and just being charismatic and not actually worried about the survival of the Skrulls as he's shooting different ones left, right, and center. He's just worried about his own ascent to power. And so it's very interesting to see how, like, often, like, this group without any power, even though it was first somebody who had good intent, still wound up taking advantage of them, and now somebody else it's the same situation. And I find it really cool how they kind of swapped that on us twice in a row, and both times it has done a really good job of taking us by surprise and just going, oh, we knew there'd be a story here, but damn, there's a lot more of a story than we realized. Next thing I want to go to is, nobody ever calls Nick Fury Nick. It's Fury. Why do they keep using this shit? So many people call him Nick. Captain America's called him Nick. Tony Stark has called him Nick. Everybody has called him Nick. And so while that definitely seems like they're trying to plant a little seed here with Rhodey, my God, you can't keep using that, Fury, because everybody calls you Nick. Garrett, what did you think about that one?
Yeah, this is one of the things I have a gripe with in this episode. It felt like they were trying to do something cool, and back when this first happened in whatever episode they talked, like, the whole internet is like, you called him Nick, like, this wasn't a, like, and then we're gonna fully, like, give us everything, like, there's no subtlety about this tease at all. It's just, like, so ham-fisted in there. I don't like that. Yeah, there you go.
Adam, how about you? Like, we should almost put together something like all the time throughout the MCU, all the time people have called Nick Fury Nick.
It's really
times.
it's one of those, like, they thought they cooked so hard with it too, because, like, after he's like, nobody calls me Nick, and then there's like a pause after it. It's like a stand-up, like, comic when he's up on stage, and then, like, you tell, like, this awesome joke and you pause, and it's just like, I'm like, guys, like, we get it, like, but this is not, like, you're overusing this stuff.
That's kind of how I felt about the Gaia thing too, like the trick that Gravik plays on Gaia. Like, I thought that was, I don't know, maybe that's just me. I thought that was so fucking obvious the whole time. It was like, I was like, okay, like, you're just gonna text immediately after, like, come on.
From our perspective, for sure. But I could see that from the viewer's perspective, yes, but from her perspective, believing she's kind of like the number two and he has her trust. I do think she thought she could get away with it a little bit maybe easier than that. And or not even I don't necessarily think she thought she could get away with it. I think she knew she would get caught and she would have to run away. What I think is that she just she didn't know it was a trap because she thought he had more of his trust. She didn't think he'd be like, "Oh, yes, here's the information." She just thought that was regular every day because she's been there for those types of conversations before.
Just felt very rushed. Like
Yeah, agreed.
we've skipped
Mhm.
part of the progression between their relationship. Like we're supposed to expect that she thought there was this great level of trust, but in one of the very first episodes, like she gets tasked to do something, and the guy Pagan gives her this like really sketchy look, like I don't trust you at all. And I pointed that out in one of the episodes because I was like, why are we already like she hasn't even done anything wrong up to this point? So like why are we even so that I don't even as a viewer I don't ever really believe that there was that level of trust. So then to try to spin this on it was a little bit of a miss for me.
When even in that scene too, where just add tack onto this real quick, like where in the very beginning when they're in like I guess it's Gaia's little bunk room wherever she's staying and they're talking, it's like clear that they both like know something's off. Like he's already on to her, and she knows that he's on to her.
Exactly.
And it's like they're trying to play off of it too much. Where then I'm like, okay, like I see what you guys are doing, but like you're working too hard on it, like playing this way too hard from both sides. Like, and it wasn't like when it's that apparent. When I'm like, okay, like I see what you're doing, then it's like you're working a little too hard with it. Like at least in my opinion.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too.
No.
Brandon, how about you? How did that hit for you? Because for me, it would almost felt like a game of chicken. Like that's what it really felt like for me. It felt like a big game of chicken, and it actually kind of hit from my perspective because I was just sitting there thinking like, who's this is a chess match, and who's gonna bite first? Like who's gonna fuck up first? Because they're both just waiting to go aha on the other one, but which one of them is gonna fuck up first? And that's really kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's very little that I can add to that. I think you guys pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, for me, it seemed like she was very well aware that he did not trust her at all. I mean, when she turned into the old man, and she ran into Talos to give him the phone and everything. When she went back to the car, if you look in the background, the guy that she turned into is standing right behind the car. So she was already thinking that that Gravik was onto her, and so she used the identity of somebody who was in the vicinity so that she could sort of, you know, get away, and this guy will still be there, and maybe he wouldn't catch on. So for me, this, it was like a big game of chicken, basically. Who's going to show their hand first? But
But shouldn't her goal be to like stay undercover as long as possible and be a mole? Like it doesn't
Yeah.
feel. What is this aha moment that we're building to? Like it feels like you should just try to infiltrate for as
Rushed.
long as possible.
See, that's kind of it. I think she thought her cards were already lost, and with that hand she had lost, and so she pivoted. And that's the part that we're going to get to next. Is obviously Gravik shooting her. We see it's a scroll, drops to the ground. I think we all feel very wholeheartedly, whether or not we don't know how it's going to happen, but Gaia's not dead. Gaia will be coming back at some point. Now, we've seen parts of the trailer that haven't been shown yet of her. Now, this could be a flashback. This could be something that got cut for sure. But let's face it, she's probably not dead here. And another thing that maybe just don't show that stuff in the trailer if you're gonna do her death, do a death
Halfway through, yeah.
I think that was it. Is Gaia wanted him? She said, "I think this job has run its course. I need him to think I'm dead now." And so I do think, even though it feels like a pretty harsh literal example of sacrificing a pawn to protect the queen, I think that's what happened. Is we see the camera cut off, something gets blocked. I think somebody else swapped into that old man and walked away, and he thought it was Gaia, and I think Gaia hid as somebody else, as that other Skrull transferred to Gaia's human form for the rest of that time until they died.
I think it was not Gaia. I think it was someone impersonating Gaia, and that's kind of what I alluded to about the whole Gravik Talos scene is that, and or what Brandon alluded to really, and I just kind of tacked on to, is that the sense is that anyone could be anyone at any time, and to not ever trust who you see or what you believe. So I do think I'm leaning towards it was someone else that kind of like sacrificed themselves for her to get away rather than sneaking in and super scrollifying herself. Because then if that's the case, I think one of the most formidable things about Gravik is he does know everything and he does have that upper hand and blah 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 blah. So if she can get away with that, it just feels a little bit like, oh, well, then he's a little bit less menacing to me, and that just brings his like villainy down a little bit. So I hope she's alive, certainly, and if so, I hope it's she's somewhere else. Someone else has kind of took the stand in for her rather than the Super Skrull stuff. But we'll see how it goes. It's gonna be, if the choice ends up being this was her last episode, that is gonna be just incredibly interesting to me. I'm gonna not know what to
There's
think.
no chance. There's no chance that is like, if this becomes the fridgiest show of all time by the end, that would be incredibly disappointing. But I don't think that's the case. I even still think there's a chance they could potentially pull Maria out down the line here and go Tetrodotoxin B at some point down the line. But I want Adam and Brandon, I want your thoughts too. Is it option A, she, and MTF is saying in the chat too, and that's kind of one of the other prevailing theories going around. She extremis herself quick before going out. She was creeping around that Super Skrull stuff. She was looking things up, and the reason why she was looking things up is she knew she had to get the hell out of there, and she needed to get her some for herself to fake her death. Bam, extremis. Quick switch back into Skrull form. Gravik thinks I'm dead. I'm going to heal shortly after he's already driven away. Option B, we're sacrificing the pawn to get to protect the queen. A quick little swap out. 2 different Skrulls. And we didn't see it on screen. Option 3, Gaia is actually dead. I think I switched from numbers to letters and back to numbers. So we got option A, option 1, option B, option 2, and option D. None of the above. It's something totally different. Adam, what do you think?
Okay, little agents of controversy here. I'm going to tell you guys why each one of those options is a complete insult to the audience. First off, the idea that she switched to somebody else and that she switched places with somebody else and somebody took her identity. When Gravik shoots her, she falls dead immediately and turns into a Skrull. So as far as I know and think, Skrulls will be able to. Gravik would be able to identify Gaia in her Skrull form.
You'd think so, yeah. You would think so.
You would think so. If that was,
he shot it and walked away.
If that was a different Skrull, because that was one thing I watched for him. But no, it's the second she hits the ground, he literally looks at her and then walks away. So if that was a different Skrull, based on everything we know about Gravik, I'd like to think if somebody completely different was laying there dead, he'd be like, who the fuck are you? You're not like, so that can't be the case. Even worse on this list is the idea that he was able to snuff out her plan like so quickly. One, they fucked up her arc so bad. In episode 1, she's all the way bad. Episode 2, we're like, wait, is she bad or is she good? Episode 3, she's good. That is just a severe mishandling of that thing. I won't go into all of that. But so she literally could not. If they expect us to believe that Gravik is this terrifyingly intelligent villain that has now climbed to the right and to the top of the ranks for the Super Skrull or to the Skrull Council, he's a Super Skrull and doing all. He snuffed out her plan so quick that he would have no idea that she did all. Like, I don't think there's a thing that goes on in that compound or anything that has to do with Skrulls on the entire planet that he doesn't know about. I think he's actually a lot like Nick Fury was, like when we first were introduced to him. He has eyes everywhere and ears everywhere else. Like, I don't think there's any way that there are Super Skrulls there that he doesn't know about. And so it can't be that. And if she is really dead, then it's literally just free, because it's not going to do anything except further, like, to piss off Talos or like anything. So like, and I know we had a discussion about like, well, she had like a discernible art, like it can't be fridging. She had a discernible art, but I'm like, in this entire episode, what was she given useful to do? In the very beginning, she's literally sitting in a room on standby. until Gravit comes by and says, "You're coming with me." Then what does she do? She listens to him in the car, and then he goes inside and she sends a text. She's just sitting on standby. What happens later in the episode? She is literally just sitting there in front of like a chessboard. We don't even know. Like, and then all of a sudden, Dad calls in, phone in from Dad. Hey, can you give me this intel? Sure. I'll just walk down there and grab it. Sure. Gravik's not already suspicious of me. He probably doesn't have anybody looking out for me. Like, he probably didn't tell anybody of the 10,000 Skrulls in this camp, hey, keep an eye on her, because I don't trust her at all. So she was able to just go down there, get all the intel she needed, and text it to Dad at the last moment. It's a fucking insult. I'm done. I'll pass it as Brandon.
That's where I actually completely disagree with you, because his whole purpose was to confirm that it was her, and so he wanted to let her go out there and grab it, and her mindset is, well, yes, I will be giving myself up if I do this, but I still can't let him drop a nuke on the United Nations. Like, I will give myself up so that he can't drop a nuke on the United Nations. And that's where obviously things come in, is like, now we have to find out what was her contingency, because she knows she's giving herself up. So how do we find out if she's back alive? I'm not ready to write it off yet when we don't know how they're going to do it from a storytelling standpoint. If they miss, then it's a miss, but I'm still willing to see how are they going to try and pull it off, because I think there's still a lot of things coming that we don't necessarily know about here. Brandon, A, B, or C? Was it another Skrull? Is she dead? Was it Extremis? Was it something else?
On my first watch, I thought that it was another Skrull, but now that Adam brings up that excellent point, I think that
Rabbit could tell better than us.
He should be able to. I mean, you know what?
Such a good point.
So our buddy and fellow agent Mark in the chat said, but it was nighttime. You know, so who knows? Maybe, I don't know.
That's what I thought too.
That cannot be the thin line reasoning that we go with. It was nighttime, so the visibility was a bit.
The reason why they're always in their human forms is not because of budget reasons and VFX. It's because they can't tell each other apart in Skrull form.
All Skrulls look alike. That's what you guys are trying to say right now. That's what you are trying to pitch to me right now. I do not want to hear any of that.
He's literally in the chat right now.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah. So now I mean, I still sort of think that that's what they're gonna go with. That it was somebody else, and they're just gonna sort of hope that maybe we forgot that maybe that they can identify each other in Skrull form. Adam is like, and I mean, I hope like, for the love of God, I hope that they haven't actually killed her off, because I feel like you don't get an actress like Emilia Clarke and kill her off after 3 episodes. You would think, but I don't know, man. Like, you know, sort of what TJ was saying, like, as of right now, we don't know how this is going to play out. So I'm trying not to be too critical of it, because we do know that there are still 3 episodes left. There may be some way that they can salvage it. I don't see it right now, but I'm hopeful. As somebody who sat through 6 seasons of Lost, I am just I'm just going to hope that there's something that's brewing, that they're sort of cooking up, something that we haven't thought of yet, something that's gonna make what happened in this episode worthwhile and make us sit up in our seats and say, "Oh wow!" Like, but you know,
I agree. I'm
Yeah.
hopeful that there is a turnaround, but right now I'm like, it does not look good. The benefit of the doubt will be given until episode 6 drops, but episode 3 for me took a hard turn to the no, and I'm hoping for episode 4 to recorrect, because I really did like episodes 1 and 2.
The chat is absolutely going off right now, and it's hilarious. Ryan talking about how he got so many clips from Adam's rant there, and Mark says, Adam, I want you to go outside when it's like 10 p.m., have someone lie down 20 feet away, and you tell me if you can tell me who it is.
She wasn't 20 feet away. He was standing at her feet, Mark. He walked right past her. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, Mark. I just watched it an hour before we got on the show. He walked right past her. There was a street light right beside him.
I'm with you, Adam.
If you haven't
Yeah.
watched any of Adam's Twitch streams where he's playing Red Dead Redemption, Jedi Survivor, anything like that, this is to me like the best like possible example of what it is. It's just like Adam is the best at I don't want to say fake outrage because fake outrage is like what they do on Fox News and it's shitty, but just like
Faux outrage.
entertaining outrage.
The best thing about it is that it's actually really real outrage. Like he's really upset about this. Look at him, he's red.
There's laughter
He's red.
behind
Look at
it.
his face.
There's laughter behind it. It's not all real.
Gravik, one of the things he wasn't able to sort out in the Super Skrull formula was vision. He still needs a new prescription. He hasn't figured it out yet. He has a difficult time with it. One thing we've kind of figured out though is sometime in the 5 years Nick Fury was gone, that's when more Skrulls started coming in. Now I assume half of the Skrulls got blipped away too, and so probably wasn't all of them yet, but it was some of them. And when more started coming is when Nick got snapped right back, and then he just chilled for a while. He was up on Saber still doing who the hell knows what. I think that could still be a little bit of something that could come right back, is like Nick was apparently building the world's most advanced space station. Well, doesn't he have anything up there he can come back and use to his advantage here somehow? Any satellites, something like that? So I think we could still see something with Saber come back. But we know that among the many Skrulls who shifted away from their allegiance to Nick Fury and towards Gravik, one of them kind of looks like it was his wife. His wife doesn't really seem like she's on his team. Now, maybe she'll come around a little bit at some point, but she kind of tells him straight up, like, I am who you made me. I thought you were gone, so I began to move on. You came back, but you didn't. And so I moved on somewhere else. And so, Brandon, what do you think about Fury's wife? Do you think she's fully Team Gravik right now? They introduced her. What role do we think she's going to play?
As of right now, I think that she is leaning more toward Team Gravik, but I'm not I don't think that there's any way that she's gonna go completely over to his side. If it does happen, like my thought is that she's most likely going to switch sides at the last minute, kind of like what we often see in shows like this. Like she's gonna see, that he's, yes, he was a jerk to her as we all discussed earlier, but he's a flawed man, and even though he was like horrible to her, that this is bigger than just her issues with him and their relationship and all that stuff. And I think she's probably gonna come around at the end. But as of right now, I'm very interested in seeing how her story develops and how it unfolds, and this sort of ongoing discussion that she's been having with Rhodey. I'm very interested in what that's going to be and what that's going to turn into and how it's going to look going forward.
Ben in chat, maybe the real secret invasion is the friends we made along the way. Garrett, what do you think about her arc? What side is she leaning to, and what was her role here? Where is this going to come into play?
Almost seems like she's a little bit reluctant right now, so maybe it's some kind of leverage being used by Gravik. I don't know. It feels like it's a big blow to the Nick Fury we know, that literally just everything was a lie. Nothing was real. He can't even trust his wife. I don't know. I think he's onto it a little bit. I think he's much farther ahead than they're in this situation in his mind, figuring stuff out, than they've led us to believe at this point. Because right now it just seems like there's just no hope. I don't know. I'm undecided about Vera as of right now. She's a former, operative though, so she has experience to play both sides. It could easily go either way. It just depends on how much you want to believe in the legend of Nick Fury at this point, I think.
Adam, that second call that she got was Rhodey. We don't know if the first one was, but that second one was Rhodey. Nick, he called him Nick, so clearly we knew Rhodey was a Skrull because he called him Nick and not Fury. But what do you think? What's this dynamic? Rhodey potentially a Skrull working with Gravik, his wife potentially working in cahoots. What if Rhodey's not a Skrull, and that was him calling Fury's wife, just knowing that was Fury's wife, and he's trying to, and it was something to throw us off, and they're getting together. I don't know. I'm just spitballing now. Adam, what do you think about his wife and where she stands? And Vara, sorry, I should just call her by her name as opposed to his wife every time. What do you think about Vara, her allegiances, and the potential relationship with Rhodey, Skrull Rhodey?
Well, everybody's already kind of hit on it perfectly, especially Brandon. I think he has the exact same idea that I have, and I'm not even looking forward to it as much because I'm so much expecting her to go and meet with Skrull Rhodey, and then there to be some bad, and like up until the very last moment. I mean, Brandon took, if it was possible to be mad at him, I would be, because he grabbed, that was the exact, he nailed it, that was like exactly what I was going to say, is that we've seen it in these shows all the time. This like newly introduced, kind of unlikely, wait, we question their intentions, and then at the very last moment they switch back and save it. Like, personally, I would like to feel a little more invested with her, whether it's more like maybe some more flashbacks or something. We'll do that, or we learn more. Like, I would like to learn more about her and like care about her and like be excited when she pops up on the screen. I don't feel like they've done a great job with that so far. Like the scene, the Dreykov scene and stuff earlier, or like early in the episode was cool, but I wasn't really all that impressed or happy to see her or anything. And I think that's not a fault on her. That's a fault on the show. But I at this point, I would be more surprised if she's not in line for one of those arcs like Brandon described. I would be more surprised if it went any other way than if it went that way. But I definitely think, so to your point, TJ, about whether like maybe this is just regular Rhodey and they're going to help him out. I'd also be pretty surprised if that was the case. I think they're getting ready to get up to some bad stuff or whatever. But I want to say on the Rhodey point, I'm pretty disappointed that they pretty much already confirmed that he's that pretty much already confirms it in my eyes that he is a Skrull. And if that was if that was the big reveal, like I really hope, if that was the big reveal, I really hope that like I'm just gonna be disappointed if they revealed it at the very end of episode 3, or if they try to respin it and then make it some other big reveal in like episode, because we know Marvel. If we know anything about them by now, there's going to be a big reveal at the end of episode 5. They do this in every single one of their shows. That throws off the finale. So I don't know what it's going to be.
What they've been doing is they've just been hitting us with the big reveal at the end of all 3 episodes.
That's how you should do it. That's good TV. Like, that's how you end like good episodes of TV, on something that makes you excited to watch the next episode. But like, I don't know. Yeah.
Do we have a definitive answer for why the Skrulls were not found to planet right now, other than
they went everywhere and everywhere was just war and nothing was open,
or like
we know nothing about why Fury was on the space station.
We were being your agents and you were rising up S.H.I.E.L.D. and we're too busy to find a planet. That's what we're going with right now. I think there's going to be a really real reason as to why that didn't happen. It's something that's going to make sense that hasn't been told to them, and whoever is kind of walking the line of do I want to be a radicalized Skrull and take Earth through violence, or do I want to just have a home peacefully? The people that are walking the line are going to hear the true reason of whatever it was, and it's going to sway them to one side or the other, and then that's what's going to decide the battle.
I really kind of hope we get something in these next few episodes, either next week or or episode 5, that it's basically like a heist episode, kind of, where it's they did this in the new season of The Witcher, and it was very Ocean's 11, where it's you watch one episode and the next episodes, it's not the same episode from a different perspective, but it leads you through, oh, I thought they got God, but look at this is actually what happened. Like I'm kind of expecting a little bit of that with this next episode of like when Fury puts his ring on in the house, when his wife tells him to put his ring on, that means the house is bugged and we can't actually talk about stuff and we got to have a cover. Maybe it's Gaia was this happening here, you know what I mean? But it's I'm kind of I feel like I need a heist run back episode where they give me like a this happened, this happened, this happened. Here were all of the foreshadowing clues that you missed along the way. I'm kind of hoping that we get something like that before the end of the episode. But then the other thing that I kind of feel like could happen in this one and needs to happen is we have lots of roadie theories in chat. Is I think if he is a Skrull, assuming he is, which is what we're being led to believe right now, is their big shebang to end it all going to be having an Avenger kill the president? We're going to have War Machine, our Avenger, who's liaison to the president. We're going to have to kill the president. We love you, Dermot Mulroney, but you're gone. I'm sorry. We're going with Harrison Ford, and Thaddeus Ross is our new president now. We know that's coming sometime in the future, whether it's a re-election or a president death. Could we see that in the second half of this series? And do we think it's going to be Skrull Rhodey who, quote unquote, pulls the trigger? Brandon, what do you think?
I hadn't even considered the fact that it could be Rhodey. If he's a Skrull, possibly, sure. I think that, you know, like I'm actually very sort of surprised, I guess, at the idea that that it could be Rhodey, because I think I was focused so much more on like if if Rhodey is a Skrull, how long has he been a Skrull? You know, and just trying to work that out. But I don't know. I think Rhodey possibly either killing the president could be a very interesting twist.
I think I would like that one quite a bit as well if they made that little Rhodey killing the president twist in there. But in terms of when people got invaded, I do really feel like I have to think that most of this happened during the blip and immediately after. I don't think there's been like the millions for large periods of time here. I think this has been a pretty recent invasion. That pretty much I feel like does it for this set of episodes. Like we got a lot that could still potentially be coming in the second half, and I feel like I have maybe a decent idea or thoughts on where each individual character's arc is gonna go. You know, like Nick needs his redemption where he starts accepting his flaws and he listens to what other people says and then he saves the day. And Talos is either probably going to die a very valiant death and go see his wife in the afterlife, or be the leader of general of the new Skrulls who are on Earth's side again, like whatever it is. Everybody's going to have their own arcs, right? But I feel like I truly have no friggin' idea how the story arc is going to conclude. Well, I feel like I have an idea for each character. I really don't know, like, where does the MCU end after Secret Invasion?
The ramifications.
The ramifications, exactly. Like, we see that these stakes are huge, but, like, how are they going to unfold? What are the consequences of the Secret Invasion going to be? Is the reason we don't know anything about Armor Wars because there's going to be something massive that happens to Rhodey in these last few episodes, and it's going to be impacting that afterwards. Is the reason why we're waiting on another Captain Marvel trailer, or the Marvels trailer, sorry, and there's why we don't know too much about that movie's plot yet. Maybe it's because it's going to be a whole lot about Skrulls. Like, we have no idea. And so it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this one concludes, because it's going to have a big impact on the rest of Earth and the MCU going forward. Brandon, you were so incredible, and as long as you're okay with it, I would love to have you back on the podcast again in the future here. Where can the people find you on socials?
Well, so if you're still on Twitter, you can follow me at indigo_15. If you're over on Threads, I'm at the Indigo Chronicles, same on Instagram, of course. And if you're one of the lucky few who have been invited to Blue Sky, I am at indigo15.bsky.social.
Anybody got a code? Where are them codes at?
Coming soon. Coming soon. I've
And-
got some for you guys soon.
And make sure to check out Brandon's work on agentsofandom.com. Like I truly it's near impossible to speak in hyperbole when describing Brandon. He's so incredible as a writer. He is so wonderfully kind, a great friend, a great content creator. And so make sure you check out his stuff up at agentsofandom.com as well. We got lots of articles cooking up there, including Adam's reviews of Secret Invasion right now. And we also got a lot
scroll rankings.
Our scroll rankings. That's what, like, you expect Gravik to realize that wasn't Gaia when Gravik doesn't even know he dropped in the scroll power rankings. This guy's arrogance and hubris
Yikes.
is getting ahead of him. And like Nick Fury, he doesn't know when Hydra is creeping up into his thing, and people are creeping up and gonna get Gravik from behind in this movie. And
Phrasing, but yeah.
save the day.
Creeping up in this thing, gonna get him from behind. You were doing that on purpose.
Yeah, we're gonna need to amend that. I'm gonna need to order a restructure
With the hand motions too, it just made it really on the nose.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna get Gravik, okay? We're gonna get him because America, and we need to stop the Skrulls. I don't know.
You're
where
not
I'm going with
American. What?
that. I know. That's why I'm making fun of you guys.
The one non-American.
That's why I get to make fun of you guys because I don't live there. But before I go more off the rails with terrible jokes that make me laugh but aren't really all that funny, let's make sure you check out Agents of Fandom on all the socials. Like Brandon mentioned, we're over on Blue Sky now. We're over on Threads now. So check out the Agents of Fandom. It's that name everywhere except for TikTok, as well as Twitter, where it's at Agents Fandom. We do really appreciate all the follows, especially on those new platforms. So make sure you check us out there and follow as well. Tune into all the shows on our wonderful podcast network, including us, of course, as well as Listen 3000. Ticket to Reality has some really fun interviews coming. Our last one was with Matthew from 90 Day Fiancé, and now we have some more from some brand new shows on TLC coming up, as well as the Fandom Academy podcast. Recently dropped a Taylor Swift draft with two of our good friends from comicbook.com, Nicole Drum, as well as Jenna Anderson. So make sure you check that one out. Lots of great content, and we will be back next week talking more Secret Invasion. I don't remember off the top of my head who our guest is for next week, so stay tuned to the socials because we are going to be dropping it there, and we're going to have you covered every week talking Secret Invasion. Thank you so much to everyone. Oh, Cinema Sibs. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Evan. I was going to say Evan Larson.
Evan.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Aisha, in the chat. Of course,
Thanks,
we recently
Evan.
added Cinema Sibs to the Agents Fandom Podcast Network, hosted by Rachel Leishman. And the first episode talked about Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and their next one dropping should be now available wherever you get your podcast as soon as this one is up on the feed as well, talking about Back to the Future as they review older movies that were very important to their childhood. So check that one out and tune in to us next week as well. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.